Welcome to E360 TV, the live streaming and on-demand destination for influential voices and enlightened audiences. We offer trending, grassroots, and purpose-driven content across a diverse range of interests. E360 TV is more than just watching programs. We offer the ability to interact with live shows connecting audiences to real, authentic influencers and storytellers while streaming to millions of devices. Real experiences. Raw conversation. One destination for it all. E360 TV.
Good morning. Oh, look at you. Oh, you caught me without my makeup. Hold on. Voila. Simply glowing. Thank you, niece. My niece, Cynthia. She makes these creams, but I'm just warning you, white people, you don't want this. It is just too oily for y'all. Okay? But we need it. You see, white people don't get ashy. You know that, right? My husband, Brian, claims that he does. I just don't have good enough eyesight to see it. But anyway, that's another show. Good morning, good morning, good morning to you. Welcome to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. I was about to say a little goofier than usual, but that's probably not even close to being true. There's the bell of purpose. What is it? You know, unless you've been under a rock somewhere, come on out, come on in. The bell of purpose isn't just some clever prop or gadget, if you will. Let me show you. Did you guys see, for those of you who are new, it used to be the bell of purpose for 5 years. Where is it? Was a little call bell. I think my cats took it. But anyway, on the 4th of July, on my birthday, my husband gave me this one. Now this is a bell. Right? Says the bell of purpose. And I use it on purpose. I use it, ring it with purpose. Listen, I'm going to tell you something. That bell is so that if we're distracted, because you know how we are, we try to do a million things in this much space. And sometimes we get ill-focused. I think I just made that word up, ill-focused. Think about that for a second. Which means we can get so caught up in all these little bitty things. There can be some pure plutonium some gold, something of value sitting in the middle of the road. And because we didn't have our eyes on the road, we think we passed roadkill, when actually, if we'd have slowed down and taken a look, we'd have probably backed up, opened up the trunk, and took it with us, because it is soul fill, something you can pour into yourself so that you can pour into others. Can I get an amen? There we go. So welcome to the show. Like I said, got a couple thank yous. You know me. This week, ooh, Lord, getting ready, y'all. I'm so excited, and I just can't hide it. I know you won't, or whatever. Thank you, Pointer Sisters. Star Trek convention. Never been to one. I've been trying to bone up and watch all these different Star Trek episodes, so I'll have something to talk about with all those Trekkies. They're going to see right through me. But so excited, being brought in to do some stuff for the network, E360. We'll be live streaming all week long, so you guys can watch all of that on Live Central on E360. Download the E360 app to catch all the fun. I'll be interviewing all the celebrities, many of the people from Deep Space Nine, Star Trek, the old Star Trek, like William Shatner, Nichelle Nichols, LeVar Burton, any of them that are there. I'm going to get to them. And then also hosting a party on Friday night, which is a reenactment from season 3. No, it's either season 3 or 10, episode 3 or 10. Figure it out. The Gratitude Festival, and I am the presider. Welcome to the Gratitude Festival. Yeah, that's the voice I'm going to use. And I'm going to tell you this, but I can't tell you anything else. I didn't know what to do with this bald head of mine, right? Because I'm going to be a Bajorian. The Deep Space Nine crew, the makeup people, are actually giving me a real Bajorian nose, putting it on and making it look like it's really me. They got their work cut out for them. Have you seen this thing? And I'm going to use these. Do you see these? I'm going to do something on my bald head. I wanted this originally. Remember Ramses from, remember in, what was that movie with Moses, the 10 Commandments? Remember how they had this one thing coming out of their bald head? I always wanted one of those, but if I could have had these, I wouldn't be bald, right? So extensions, that's what they had even back in old Egypt. Clip-ons. So I'm going to try to figure that out. Any idea how I can stick this and not have to get it surgically removed later? And where should it be? Okay. Put in the comments. I need your help. Everything else is ready to go. I'm ready to go. Some last minute details over the next couple of days. But if you would like to join us in Las Vegas, good luck getting a room. I'll tell you that. I would want to say thank you to my dear friend Dan Devey and all of the wonderful team over at Gaze in Space. Now, Gaze in Space is a nonprofit organization, and what they do is they are fighting to have all marginalized peoples represented in sci-fi books, documentaries, all of the Star Trek things. That means autism, gay, things that speak to women's rights, all of it. So I love people. I've never met anybody until I met this crew who are working on something for the future. I mean, really future. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Can I see you guys? Hi. So anyway, thank you to all of them. And let's see. Is there anything else? No. Oh, these came day before yesterday. So I'm taking 25 copies of these and going to be giving them away to people. So excited. I really am. Who knew? You know, and it's not just me, because every time I tell somebody, guess where we're headed to start to, you're going to start. I didn't know. And there's a lot of closet Trekkies too. I'm finding out. They're showing me all kinds of stuff, sending me, look. So listen, you guys, I'd love to have you there with us. If not, would you please send all of us that are trying to make a difference in this world by pouring into each other and uplifting others, send us your love, light, and support. It is greatly appreciated. And the manner in which we bless others is the manner in which we will be blessed, right? Let that sink in. Who is here today? Who is she? I know, a first timer. So you know, you guys, you know the house rules. Be sweet as pie. Don't scare the girl. She's here for the very first time. And she came to my attention through, you guys remember him, John Krotek. What a great guy he is. And he just loves telling people about great people. If you don't know John, I suggest you get over. It starts with a K, Krotech. Get over. He'll be watching today, so you'll see his name in there. And get to know him, right? You won't be sorry. So he introduced me to this young lady today, LANI HANKINS. She's, well, at the age of 22, she traded her surfboard. Okay, so yep, she's that girl, for a rifle. Oh, she's really that girl. And said goodbye to family and childhood friends in order to embrace comrades and battle buddies. She walked away from college and into a combat zone. She let go of her comforts of home and faced challenges far bigger than herself. She was taught how to adapt, fight, and protect, but she also learned about trauma, loss, and how to bottle it all away. She felt pains that left deep scars, lost buddies she would never forget, and she also experienced some of the best and worst days of her life. Now, in the Army, as someone that had experienced trauma, LANI, she had gone to war. She struggled to find, many have struggled to find their place and purpose. Oh, there's my favorite word, purpose. And anyway, her story aims to remind us of just that. So there's more to it, but like they say out in the hood and on the streets, and the young kids, I can show you better than I can tell you. And that's why she's here today. So now, on your best behavior, if you would, share this out. Trust me, you are going to want to share this out. Share the joy, share the love. Put your hearts on the screen. Put your hearts into this conversation. Allow yourself, please, to be poured into. And if you feel the need, drop a comment, do something. Everything we do should mean something, because that's the only way it can then convert and become meaningful for others. Let that sink in for a minute. So she'll be here. I'm dressing up in here today. Boom, just like that. See that? Yeah, see that? That's right. I'm putting on all of the good stuff, because guess what? Guess what? Here she comes, you guys. This is her first time. Welcome to the stage, our dear friend, LANI HANKINS. Oh, wait a minute. I think I want that view, yes, because I want to see all of those. You got a lot of it. You got some splaining to do, Lucy. Oh, you guys, I almost forgotten. She's under contract. She already threatened to sue me. Welcome to the show, my sidekick, my best gal, 6 years running, Lucy McGillicuddy Ricardo. Happy now? So anyway, yes, that is one babe hanging up back there and one babe sitting in front of her, right? And look at all of that Army regalia.
Yes.
Tell us the story about what this means to you back there, and then introduce yourself. Tell everybody where you are in the world, and we'll get started.
As for her, I've just always been a fan of the pinups.
You just touched her boobs.
Oh.
Did you do that on purpose?
Maybe.
Okay.
But most of the
let me just say this. If it were me, I probably would have gone for the rocket first, but that's just the tree I bark up. Okay, so go ahead. Go ahead.
Most of these patches are just stuff I served with. So the big red one is where I served for my first duty station. And then a lot of these are veteran-owned organizations that mean a lot to me, other veteran podcasts. So think people that have made a big impact in my life. So I love supporting their stuff so everybody can learn about them. So I got Canceled for Maintenance, Vigilant Valkyrie. And then you got like Till Valhalla Project. They do a lot for veteran suicide awareness.
Awesome.
And so it's just kind of a whole mix of where I've been and who's helped me get to where I am, and
yes,
a little bit of everything.
Well, can I make a request?
Yes.
See that little circle underneath the bottom one on the left? See that circle, that big circle right there? Now down, go right underneath it. That big circle that's open there. Reserve that for me. I'm going to send something. I want to be on that wall. I'm a veteran, and I want to help you get somewhere. I want us to help each other, and especially everybody out there, get to wherever it is we're supposed to be right now. Hey, we're here, so we've already done it. Yay. Okay. I just love it. So clearly, are you still active duty?
No. I'm married back into the military, so my husband's active.
Did you fall and bump your head? I'm kidding.
I feel like I don't know why I came back, but I'm here. So
yes. So tell everybody, that was an incredible intro, that bio you sent. 22 years old. Yeah, you were in college. You're doing all these things, trading your surfboard. You were that girl, right? What was it that caught your eye about the military, and why the sudden flip of direction?
I was going to college to be an art student. And when I was really close to graduating, people were kind of like, that's great, but what are you going to do with that? Where's art going to take you? And then I started kind of panicking because I was a couple months out from graduating. So it's like, I don't know where drawing pictures is going to take me. And my dad was a Vietnam vet. My grandfathers were World War II vets. So military was in my family, but we didn't talk about it. So I didn't ever consider us to be a military family. So it was not a thought. I loved movies like G.I. Jane. I thought she was great and stuff, but it just wasn't on my radar. And then when I got to the end of college, or my associates, I had a friend that went to the military, and he came back and he's like, it's the greatest 9-to-5 you could ever want. And he really sold me on it. And so I was like, I'll try it because I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Right.
Like, surfing and art isn't getting me anywhere. And so I quickly learned it is not necessarily the greatest 9-to-5 you're ever going to get. And it's not a 9-to-5. And so
The military, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like it's a 0 to 0. I mean, it's the full 24.
It's
never gonna want you.
It really is. Even when you leave, that brotherhood, the things that, isn't it amazing how when you're in there, you're like, oh, this is bullshit. Oh my God, I can't wait till someone's not telling me what to do. You know what I mean? And then you get to be the one telling people, I kind of like this. Get out and give me 20. You know what I mean? Right. But then we get out, and I know I did. I felt separation anxiety. I just missed, it was like I missed family. It was worse than when, you watch your Netflix shows and you get all into them and stuff, even just Ozark, and it goes off for the season. You feel like all your friends died or something. Right. I ain't got no place to go, So anyway, that's how I felt. But the relationships are just amazing. The roots are so deep. And you feel connected to people that you've never met that served, and you feel that obligation and that duty. That's what I took from it, LANI. I really was introduced to duty, and that was a big piece for me. So tell us about, what's it like for a young woman? What year did you go in?
I went in 2011.
2011. So everything's supposed to be progressive and this and the other. Was it? Was it what you expected?
It was not what I expected, but to some degree it was easier. I had a very different expectation because of my dad being a Vietnam vet, because he told me all of the horror stories of basic training and like the things they would do to each other to prank and kind of pick on each other. So I kind of expected it to be hard in other aspects. I didn't really think, because of how late I was joining, I thought the women had been here for a minute. I don't think this is going to be an issue. But then I got attached to a cavalry unit. And so it was a very male-dominated unit. And it was very clear that there's this expectation that you will be the weak link. You're going to be the one that's going to cry. You're going to be the one that holds everybody up before they even know how you can perform. So you kind of come into it with a lot to prove. Expectations
from whom? Who thought that?
All the men, a lot of men. I came in with a lot of Cav Scouts and infantrymen, so they thought, women, we hold back.
Still?
Yes.
Okay, Jane. So you may we know that was who played that role again? Demi Moore. Right, but you play it on Facebook, so hi Demi. She's a has-been now. So anyway, I'm kidding. In case I ever meet you, I was kidding. I'm just saying, don't burn any bridges before they're built. So how did it feel? What was the very first thing that came on your radar as, wait a minute, was that look what I thought? Wait a minute. Did you mumble something as you were? Where did it show its ugly face first? Is what I'm asking.
I mean, if you wonder where the ugly face was that my first month at my first duty station, I faced military sexual trauma. So I learned very early on that just because they're in a uniform doesn't mean they're always on your side. And so I had a very hard lesson walking into the military, where it was like, because they do sell it on the brotherhood, sisterhood, big family thing when you're going through recruiting, stuff like that. You see it in the movies. It's just like kumbaya, everybody's here together. And I realized very early on, you have to find those people to have those moments. You can't just walk in and think anyone in a uniform is like, we're going to be buddies. We're going to look for each other, no matter what we go through. And so I really had to establish kind of my tribe early on because I had gone through such a big trauma at the start. So my trust was already kind of
How long were you in before this happened?
Well, if I considered like all the training I'd done up to that point, since it was my first month in my duty station, it was probably about 6 months in to being a soldier.
That's
so
it?
Very early, very early. And then it's like 8 months after that, then I was in Afghanistan. So then I had to deploy with these people. And so it was very like, I learned very early on, like when you
with
go
the very people that were harassing you?
Yes. Deployed with them and everything, stood in a formation with them. And so that was where, like, going into a combat zone, a lot of times women have the understanding more than the men do. Some men understand it because sexual harassment, all genders, all colors, everything. Nobody's really exempt from it. But I think women have the bigger understanding of what can happen inside the wire, as opposed to what the guys focus on outside the wire when you go to a combat zone, because it's more of focusing on the enemy you're trained for, not the enemy that's kind of walking beside you. And so there is the dark side to being in the military, but there's also a lot of great things, which is where a lot of us leave kind of confused because you have these traumatic experiences, but the camaraderie is still there and there's a lot of love for it. So it's always kind of grappling with what you miss and what you're trying to let go. And you can't always let go of the trauma because it gets entangled with all those beautiful, loving memories you have of these people you served with.
It could be a bit confusing.
Yeah, so it follows you for a long time. And so that's why for me, stuff like writing, that's why I started getting into writing a lot, because I had to work through that. Because the military mentality is don't talk about it. Put up, shut up, just get on with the mission. And especially when you're a woman, because you're expected to complain, you're expected to cry. And so you don't want to be that stereotype. So you try to bottle.
Even
just
if
like
you need to cry, you're not going to because they're expecting it.
Yeah. So
who did you tell, Lonnie?
I didn't. Well, when it came to the MST, is what we refer to in the military.
Let me just get this out there. I just recently became and I got out in 84 or something. And do you know, they were in my file looking at something. I'm in Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And they found an incident that was mishandled. And they service connected me 70%, just like that. You see what I'm saying? And so I know there have been some changes about it, but I didn't even know that was, because no one seemed to care. I was like, whatever. We know you're gay. You probably asked for it. That kind of thing. And so talk about that. There are some people who are watching who may not know what military sexual trauma is all about. And is it different than, say, when a person is abused or harassed in the civilian world? How differently was it handled is my point.
It wasn't at all, because I didn't say anything about it, kept it to myself. Happened one night at the barracks, because I was in an in-processing barracks because I hadn't even gotten to my new unit yet, or my first unit. And so I was living in a temporary barracks, and it was housing a lot of infantrymen and guys. There was only one other female in this building. And so the incident took place. And so I'm coming into a new unit. So I didn't know anybody. I didn't know leadership. I didn't have time to establish any trust with anyone. I didn't know even the system of how to report anything, because I was just so new, because they don't talk about that in basic training. It's not like, oh, by the way, when you get to your unit, if this happens to you, this is who you go to. This is how the channels you go through. So I just kept it to myself.
And can I just butt in right there about something that I find very interesting? People that have been incarcerated know that when you're processing in the videos about process, here's what to expect. They show them what a predator looks like. Don't take that candy bar that's on your bunk when you come in or whatever. You're going to have to pay for it one way or the other. But in the military, they don't talk about it at all. At all.
Ignore it. Like, they just blind eye, like it's going to go away or something, but they don't want to deal with it. And so coming in as this brand new female, I didn't want to come into my unit bringing the problems with me. So when
troublemaking ass,
just like
she's trouble.
Well, because what happens sometimes too is if you bring up anything from sexual assault to harassment, then they think, well, You probably asked for it, or you're going to be one of those women that's going to blame any guy that comes around you
and use
now
that.
you're you know, going to get us in trouble because you're
Excuse me, did you just look at me? You
Yeah.
winked at me, didn't you? That they think you're that, you know, like you don't know the difference. You
They
just
think-
became a woman, and this is your first time around men with all of that shit that comes out.
I mean, they think that you hold this power to just take their rank, take their pay, take their army service away, when it's really like there's, you know, some people do abuse it, which is unfortunate. Some people do make those false claims, but those speak so much louder than the hundreds and thousands that take place that are very real and valid complaints to talk about. They just focus on that one that, see, she made it up, so everybody's making it up. And so I kept it to myself, and I left the service without ever talking about it, never even telling anyone that that person was in our unit, so that like people had a clue, because it was just like, he's not new, so I'm sure other people have dealt with this. So I just kept it to myself. And even when I got into the VA system, I didn't say anything for a long time, until probably a couple of years of being out of the service. Finally brought it up to a social worker, and she was like, are you sure your trauma is from that happening, or are you just bipolar? And then it was like, I guess I can't talk about it here either. And so I just got quiet again. And then that's when I started writing about it, because it was like, I wish people knew about this, because
Why does it sound like it was a female who said that to you?
It was a woman. And that's why it really caught me off guard, because I thought she would understand, which is why I finally opened up to her, because all the other social workers and psychologists I had dealt with through the VA had always been men. So it's like, well, I don't feel like I want to talk to you about this. So when I finally got a woman, it was like, okay, this is a safe space. I can tell you. And I was really disappointed. But at the same time, I wasn't completely surprised, because what I dealt with after this sexual trauma taking place was female service members I was with making the rumors and telling people, oh, she's easy and this and that, and you can go, and they were giving out my room number and stuff like that. And so even though the MST had taken place, it was the reaction of my peers turning on me and making it to where I realized, okay, I can't talk to anybody, I can't reach out. And so I didn't ever really have a good relationship with other female service members, because they really, a man hurt me physically, but the women were taking aim at pride and reputation and dignity and all this other stuff, which was cutting so much differently and scarring differently. And so funny enough, I became very good friends with a lot of men, because they protected me, because I was like the sister. And so then I had this little tribe of guys that were always like, I can get you to where you need to go. I can make sure you can go from point A to point B without anybody harassing you. You want to do your laundry in the barracks? I can stand there so no one corners you in here. And
Oh my goodness.
So it was, it became very real, very fast, because you always think that won't happen to me. That's not like, that's just something they put in the movie or something like that. That's not right. And then to learn that so quickly, it was just like, okay, this is what this is. This is what this is going to be. And so to have it like happen so early on in my service, it was just like, it set the tone, where it was like, I have to be very careful here too. Just like I win the civilian world, I have to watch my back.
Right. Wow. Wow. A lot of gunpowder inside that keg. Let's put it that way. When we return after this very brief commercial break, we're going to come back with LANI, and we're going to talk about, I want to know, did you ever see a young woman come in after you, and did you look at her and say like, girl, be careful, you're next? We're going to talk about that more and get deeper into the book. LANI's going to read to us from it when we return, you guys. Don't go away. You're in the midst of today's illuminated conversation right here on Bathrobe Moments. We'll be back in just 1 minute. Welcome back to today's installment of Bathrobe Moments. I'm your host, Lauren Michaels Harris. And before we bring back in our stellar guest, LANI Hankins, I want to just remind you of something. Yes, change is sometimes considered a big apple in our world, but get to the core by taking small bites. As far as your health goes, I'll tell you what a choice I made was to stop drinking Diet Coke and do better, just a little bit at a time. And I'm so glad I did, because VA, one of my sponsors, this is a great deal right here. I get 2 servings of vegetables every day, just from 1 can, 60 calories, 100% pure vegetable juice from concentrate. Easy to find. Head down the aisle with the juice in it. I find mine in my store right next to the Kool-Aid boxes. What's up with that? But anyway, I walk away from the Kool-Aid and I pop the top and have myself a V8. Get yourself some today. You won't be sorry. That's done. Here she comes. Hi, LANI. How are you? Good. So before we went to break, we were talking about some of the backstory in your life, as far as the military and how you found your way to the military. And right before we left, so the book that you have 2. One you wrote a bit back, the Gaslit
Heart was
the Gaslit Heart. Tell us what that's about.
So the Gaslit Heart kind of takes off from where my first book ended, which really covered the transition period. And
that's the new book, The Gaslit Heart.
The Gaslit Heart's the newest one.
Okay, I had it backwards. Okay. And the first book?
The first one, Bottled Away, is talking about just my military service. And it's talking about how I got there, what happened, everything from going on a deployment, coming home, transitioning out, veteran suicide. It covers all kinds of stuff. And then it kind of leaves off because it goes into PTSD awareness a little bit, but I don't really go into the story of where mine came from. And so that's where Gaslit Heart kind of takes off, because I had a really rough transition, and because I was so lost, and I realized in my isolation that I was kind of my own enemy because of how I kind of turned on myself mentally, because I felt very broken from my service. And a lot of people had convinced me I had no reason to be, because I was a woman that didn't go outside the wire and this and that. And so I knew things had happened to me, but it wasn't the right stuff. And so I felt like, okay, I'm just weak because I can't get over it. And so I just latched onto the first person that really accepted me with all what I considered to be broken pieces. And it turned into a very toxic relationship. And I dealt with domestic violence for about 2 years. And so it talks, so the Gaslit Heart, A Story of Service and Survival, basically talks about how the Army kind of broke me down to get to that point where I would allow such toxic stuff into my life. But at the same time, it's what got me through it and what got me out of it. There was a lot of training that came into work to be resilient and to be patient, because that whole hurry up and wait they teach you in the military is what I used to eventually escape that relationship with my daughter, and to start life again, start living again, and to reclaim that purpose I had been looking for when I initially got out. And so it's just a much deeper story of how transition can really knock you down. But Bottled Away is like the full story of everything through the military.
Oof. Yeah. I'm sitting here going, just by the way you speak it into existence, it literally just kind of grabbed me by the collar and started pulling me down the rabbit hole into your journey. All I was sitting here in my mind was going, girl, you know what I'm saying? Like, child, you know, my granny would say, girl, let me tell you. So anyway, I am interested. Tell us about this title. Because those of us who have books, or those who are writing books, or have ever considered it, or just are avid readers, the title is usually the first thing that draws us in. And no exception here. Bottled Away, Confessions of a Struggling Veteran. Now, I headed right into the struggling. Why did you put that word in there?
I think there's a lot of issue with that word, especially in the veteran community, of admitting to those demons and stuff. So I really wanted to just throw it out there like this. I'm going to speak against all the things we're not supposed to speak about. I'm going to talk about all those. And it was a lot of breaking the stigma and breaking this mentality that civilians and military both have of why you can hurt from your service.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it goes back to the combat experience. And that's not, things are changing with how we engage in combat now. It's not as, it's not like how it was World War II or even Vietnam. It's because of technology coming in. And so I think it's time to move past this idea of you can only be damaged by being in a combat zone. And you can't, like this idea that you can't struggle from anything else. If you're a veteran, like there's a stereotype of like veterans are always having some sort of an issue. And so struggling was really just that word to just grab the attention because it's such a wrong word to associate with a veteran. At least
right.
We talk about ourselves.
Do you feel, LANI, that when those two words are placed together, that it points to some sort of a weakness? Is that?
I do think we see the struggling as a weakness, and that's why we don't talk about it. And that's where bottled away comes from, because it's that military mentality of shove it
down. Yes.
Just putting it there. And the idea was pop the cork and let it out, because trauma's heavy, our experiences, life's hard. Like if we don't talk about it and we just keep pushing it down, like it comes back and gets you later on. Because that's what I learned with the MST. I bottled it away and it came back years later because I thought it doesn't bother me because I haven't done anything with it. It doesn't drag me down, but it was because I hadn't processed it. I hadn't, I had just, put it on the shelf for a different day.
Right. So, man. Okay, so because here's what I always believe. I tell, and a lot of you out there have heard this before. Those of us, which is most everyone, and the ones who say it hasn't happened are lying. Trauma. I believe that trauma never, because trauma is really based around a bunch of cowards. Wherever it comes from, it comes from the coward zone. And so cowards never travel alone. And that was the first thing that got me excited, because I was like, okay, well, what else came with them? And that's when I started finding that every trauma I'd ever lived rode sidecar, had something riding sidecar. And I find now, just like the book on the screen, there was a blessing, a future blessing that was born into the process of becoming at the same time as we were experiencing the trauma. Because if tears had words, like my good friend Rin says all the time, I love that. If tears had words, can you imagine how many books there'd be? Think about that one for a minute. And that's what I love about this. So tell us about the confessions part. What did you confess, and who were you confessing to?
So originally when I began Cruise Corner, which is where I initially shared all this stuff through, it was a blog.
Talk about that. Yeah.
And so when Cruise Corner started, it started as a blog. And so nobody knew who I was. And I wasn't really posting anything about me because it was a blog. It wasn't social media. It wasn't my image all over the place or anything like that. And I would just write about anything that was kind of bringing me down and just struggling with transition, struggling to find my place, struggling with friends committing suicide. And so I was just confessing this stuff. And I said my blog was a place for me to confess all those wounds I had tried to ignore. And so that's why I took a lot of
start healing.
And so that blog fed a lot of bottled away, because I took it and I kind of elongated it, because blogging, you have to really shorten it down to like a 2-minute read, 3-minute read, just for people to get through it, a quick thing. And so you leave a lot of stuff to be explained sometimes. And so my idea was I'm going to take this blog and I'm going to elongate it and I'm going to tell the whole story so people understand where these pains stem from. Because it was just like, basically, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I have anxiety, and this is how I feel. But people didn't understand the root of it. And I wanted to really explain where that came from. And because of, like I did, even though it was frightening being in like a cav unit with so many men, I understood from things like Afghanistan, doing a lot of tower guard with these guys, I understood that they couldn't speak up. Everyone expected me as a woman to complain. And so I thought, the ones that I'm losing are my male friends. These are the guys that are committing suicide. Maybe what I can confess can be for them too, because society doesn't expect the guy to say anything. So maybe I need to tell the story for all of us, and maybe some of them will start talking. Maybe some of them will decide to share their story, or at least maybe pieces of my story, even though not everybody can relate to it, but maybe you can take what you can from it and build your own little survival guide. Because none of us, trauma doesn't come with instructions. Life doesn't come with instructions.
You know what? I'm going to tell you, you're right on point with that, because how, I had gone through you guys know my story, 22 homes, foster care and all that. It's abuse in there. A lot of sexual trauma in there. And do you know, I had built up a callus of some sort. And when that happened to me in the military, I didn't even see it because of the way what wasn't being said, the way you were supposed to say it or not say it, made me somehow not even put it in that room where I kept all that crap. I didn't think anything of it by that time. And that's because I had pushed down that previous life of trauma. So this was just something else that just, went wherever. And so when you just said that, I felt myself looking inward. Like, she's right. Because look at, that was 40 years ago. Almost 40 years ago. And I'm just now finding out, which means I'm just now talking about it. Do you think, LANI, that guys that experience either because if you're a silent observer or you have knowledge of it, by omission, you're still guilty of knowing and not caring. Do you think that this book will help free people's tongues, unstitch their lips, men in particular that read this? Because I believe there's more sexual trauma than we can take a stick at. Nobody's talking about it. It's almost like what it used to be like about priests. Remember how, and then all of a sudden everybody was talking about it, and it started doing something to create change. How do you feel about that when you think about your own book? And then I want you to read that part, because here's a 2-part question for you. And also tag in here, put this on the end. What's it like for you, LANI, when you read your own experiences back, when you hear them coming back at you? If that makes any sense, you know what I'm saying? What's that like? Is it surreal?
A little bit, yeah, but the thing is, I've heard even people telling their story where it's not even from what I've written, and it almost matches like perfectly. Okay. And to understand that there are people out there that almost just have the exact story, especially those that served in the military, other women. And it's surreal how many relate, because you feel so alone when it happens. And so to understand that story is more common than you initially realize. And I realized that more after I wrote the book and people started contacting me about it. And they're just like, your book's really hard to get through because I understand too much of it, like going through it, page to page. Did
that surprise you?
It did, to a certain extent. But then I was also, by then, because of running a podcast, I understood that people had that story, and that those people are going to be the ones that probably gravitated towards it more, because you don't want to know that other people are suffering, but you don't want to feel alone either in your suffering. And so sometimes I think people look to other people's stories and hardships to understand how they kept hope or how they got through it, because they can't necessarily figure that out yet. They don't know where their footing is going. And so I was hoping that people, especially men, because I knew men were the ones that were bottling the stuff away the most, that they would find something there that would break the silence. Because for me, when it came to like MST, the I am Vanessa Guillen hashtag that happened last year with the Fort Hood incident was what really, when I started seeing like the Me Too movement and stuff like that, that's where I realized like this story is actually very common. Okay. And so I'm going to tell it. I'm going to finally say my piece, because people need to know that this is more common than uncommon.
Has anyone ever made you feel, since you've written this, like a whistleblower?
Oh, absolutely. There's plenty of people that want to hold up that, like, the military mentality of like, we can handle everything. You're just being the typical woman and complaining. You're trying. Yeah. I mean, I've seen that exact comment, the wang, on people saying, like, when I go on like as a guest to people's podcasts, they're like, she's coming on, female vet, we're going to hear her story. And that's about it. And then people go, wham. And it's like, where do you expect her to complain?
See what I'm saying? So they've already put a blockade up.
Yeah. And so then, of course, they don't listen to it. So they don't even hear it. And then if I talk about things like military sexual trauma and PTSD, because it's not combat related, a lot of people come back at stop trying to downplay what our people that go through combat actually deal with. Stop trying to, and it's like, I'm not trying to take away from anybody's story. I'm adding another story to the shelf. Like,
okay.
And so,
Girl.
you know,
Hit that again, girl. So what about this one? Now, the odds of your perpetrator, your abuser, actually reading this book are probably greater, in my opinion, if he gets wind of it and it's still around. Probably greater than we would ever expect. So what about the guy, any guy or woman that is responsible, those who are responsible for these stories, you know, the ones who do the deeds? What do you think a person from that side of the aisle could take from this story of yours to do whatever they need to do to release, heal, do better, whatever? Because there, you know, there are those who read the story who weren't the receiver, the recipient, but they were the cause.
I don't know. I know, like, the person that I dealt with, just from what I knew of them in the military, I don't think they would take the time to read a story like this because they don't see anything wrong in their actions. So they wouldn't even, if he read my book, he probably wouldn't even know it was him.
Wouldn't even connect it.
I don't think he would even put it together. Because I don't think some of those people, not all, but I think some of them don't even see the wrong in their action, because there are, unfortunately, men in the military that say that women are simply there for their pleasure and their entertainment. And that's that. And they don't see anything wrong with it. We were literally just there for their own pleasure. And so to read that story is just like, oh, she's complaining, whatever. Or she wants
in this day and age.
Because we're still, the story is the same even across the civilian side of just like, everybody wants to still put it, the victim shaming and blaming. It's, what were you wearing? What were you doing? You probably asked for it, or something like that. Even though in the military, they still try the whole, like, what were you wearing? Well, I was wearing the same uniform he had.
Right, 3510.
So as far as I knew, I looked just like him, but it still happened. And so I think we kind of just we're still dismissive of it, and I don't think it's going to change anytime.
You sure it wasn't that neon bra you had underneath your uniform that kept blinking underneath? I'm just saying. That's what
time maybe he saw me in civvies. Like, it was just kind of, but I don't think he would even put it together if he read the book.
Before you speak to that real quick. Because of that mindset, and you know you were in the same uniform, what about when it was your time to do your own thing and you put on your civvies? Did you find yourself like, well, I better not wear those jeans, or I better wear a bigger t-shirt, or they're going to say, did you find yourself having to not being allowed to express yourself naturally because of that there?
I was very aware of my appearance, and so I wouldn't wear even like jewelry that was real flashy or anything. I just didn't want to draw any type of attention, because I was worried that it would bring anything good. I was afraid to wear dresses, because you understand that, well, if this was able to happen when I was wearing jeans and a belt or wearing something like that, like, I don't want to wear a dress. Like, because if I can, save myself from the one, I'm definitely not going to be able to, help with this. And there were times where, like, I was even afraid to wear my hair down, because you realize your hair can be used as a weapon after stuff like that happens to you. And so you're overly conscious of all the things that you're portraying, or you try to just be very subtle, like wear a lot of
black. Not do that. Oh, I better not put any mascara on. Oh, I better not wear any lipstick. Oh, I better not wear. Ugh.
Yeah.
Did you ever feel yourself becoming hyper paranoid?
Oh, yeah. Paranoid, hypervigilance. Like, it's just, everybody is looking at you. The guy that's walking too close in the grocery store is going to be the one that follows you to the parking lot, whether it's true or not. Like, it creates so many wounds around you that you don't sometimes even process. Like, you don't realize you're doing it, but you're doing it.
But you're doing it.
It just becomes your life. You're just in
part of PTSD.
Life is survival mode at that point. You're just trying to get through the day.
Amen. So many of us can relate to that, right or wrong. Can I get an amen? Drop it in the comments, right? Keep it real, you guys. LANI, I asked you if you would feel comfortable sharing an excerpt from your book of your choice with everyone here today, and I'm hoping you found something for us. Can you set that up for us?
So this is mostly this is towards the end of my book. And so it's just talking about that point of finding purpose and how I used writing to kind of find my way back to the veteran community, to use the trauma I've endured and the things that happened to me to try to help other people, because I wanted other people to feel like they could talk, that we could still help each other. No one's alone, stuff like that.
Nice. I'm going to dip out right quick and let you do your thing. I'll be right back when you're finished.
All right. So even though I no longer wore the uniform, I planned to continue to be there for all my fallen comrades. And I know I am not the only one, because outside the military, I have seen how many veterans will still go out of their way to try to care for one another, and how camaraderie really does live on long after our service ends. I know that I do not want to see anyone else fall through the cracks, so I personally invest my time and energy into things that I hope will make a difference, even if that is simply letting others know that they have someone in their corner. We should know that our service and sacrifices count. Those of us that served were taught that we need to work together to accomplish the mission. For the ones we have already lost, we can keep them from being forgotten. As for the ones that are still here, we can work together to make sure that they stay. Nobody should get left behind, not in training, not in war, and certainly not at home. Last of all, to those that held the camaraderie in the military so dear, and to those that are so willing to sacrifice for their brothers and sisters in arms, and to those that have been deeply impacted by the loss of a buddy or trauma, have compassion, hold on to empathy. Do not, however, lose yourself in the attempt to save everyone from everything. Do not suffer needlessly or neglect yourself because of self-guilt. Your health and well-being are just as important as the people that you're wanting to save. As current and former service members, many of us have this need or impulse to help everyone around us. We know all too well that losing anyone can be shattering. But in our efforts to end veteran suicide, we must be careful that we do not take ourselves out of the fight. You cannot carry all the suffering, sorrow, and pain of the world on your shoulders alone. That is what buddies are for, sharing the load. And to anyone that has ever been made to feel bad about their service, don't let anyone take that away from you. Be proud of what you did, continue to honor those that you have lost, and always remember that when tomorrow comes, you are not alone.
Freon. You just dipped me in Freon. I'll let the bell do my talking. How do you think this is going to impact your future, the future you? You're so strong. It's just amazing to me just looking at you and wondering how that person thought that they would get away with this, because they didn't. They created a way and didn't even know it. That's a beautiful thing. Tell us, we've got about 4 more minutes. What are your hopes for this work?
Really, for me, my goal was to at least impact one person. That was always my goal when I started like Cruise Corner. If you can change something for at least one person, if we all did that, the impact would be astronomical. If we just all focus on not always the big picture, just one person makes a difference. And so I thought, if I can get this out and it changes something from one person, I've done something with all that has happened to me. I did not suffer for nothing. And writing,
That's it.
That weight. I got that weight off. I was able to let go of a lot. And so even if the book never went anywhere or nothing came of it, or I didn't find myself talking about it, for myself, I learned to live again, and I learned to kind of process things. I gave up that military mentality of thinking that I had to keep it to myself. I couldn't talk about it. My mother didn't even know about half the things that happened to me in the service, including the military sexual trauma, and she read the book. And I've been able to finally talk to my family, and they understand where I went quiet for so many years. And so it's brought connections back for me.
Right. Explaining a lot of things that were kind of hanging out in the air.
Yeah. And I had said at the beginning that women that I served with had made dealing with that trauma very difficult because they turned on me and they weren't the sisters I thought they would be. And by sharing this book and realizing that other women dealt with that, not just the MST, but the harassment from their female peers, brought us back together to realize it wasn't always personal. Sometimes we were just trying to get through, because if you keep the eyes off you by bringing another poor female, like the direction over here, then you're safe, because everybody's attention's on this side. And so some of us were sacrificed for others to be able to go. And it was just, I think we learned later on that it's like, it wasn't meant to hurt anyone. It was meant to salvage ourselves, but it hurt people in that. And so it brought me back to veterans that were women that allowed me to connect again. It helped heal a lot of things that I was still holding on to when I left the service. So even if it didn't do anything, it did something for me. And I've known from just some of the people I've reached out that it's helped at least a couple people. And that's enough. Feel like they can tell their own. And that was enough.
That's right. It helped me. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Is it on Audible? Do you have are you going to do a spoken version?
I've thought about it. The Gaslit Heart, I actually began a podcast called the Sisu for Life podcast, where I just read chapter to chapter, because I did have people tell me that it was a very difficult read, but they feel like they could hear the story. Because
right. I get that.
And so the Sisu for Life podcast is where it's just me reading the Gaslit Heart for people. So it's free. It's just a way for people, because I cared more about getting the story out there to people so that they could hear it and know that you can survive it.
Absolutely. Well, Cruise Corner is on Facebook. It's where you can go to find out much, much more than was talked about here today. I have dropped this extensive link inside the chat to make it easy for you guys to just touch and go to take a look. That'll take you over to Amazon, where you can pick up the book. Man, just an incredible story. John Krotek, you did it, man. You really did. There it is again, you guys. Get over and get your copy of Bottled Away, Confessions of a Struggling Veteran by the one and only LANI Hankins. LANI, thank you so very much for your courage, for your willingness to be vulnerable and transparent, and most importantly, for what you have poured into all of us here today. And we pray that we will be able, if not already, to do the same thing for you. So the promise has been fulfilled, you guys, yet again, that where two or more of us comes together and has illuminated conversation, something wonderful is right behind it, right beside it, and right in front of it. Take everything you do, and remember, we don't live anything on accident. Inside every trauma is the seedling, is the embryo of a future blessing, just waiting for the chance to become. How does that happen? When you tell your story. Because behind every scar, number one, we have proof of healing. Immediately, we have proof that it heals. And if you look at that scar and you celebrate it, you're going to see the small, faint outline of a heart. It's your story waiting for you to give it permission to beat. LANI, thank you so very much. You guys, meet me tomorrow. Daniel Echeverria, host of Weekly Dose with Dano and a fellow producer at the E360 Network, will be here. He's joining us in Las Vegas this week, and we're talking all things Vegas tomorrow right here. So I'll meet you guys out front, 8 a.m. on the front porch for our next episode of Bathrobe Moments. Thanks, LANI. Have a great day. And thank you for being here. I mean that. Thank you so much. You guys get out there. You know what you got to do. It's simple. Just be the blessing you want to receive. Bye. See you tomorrow.
Show me your soul. Baby, I'll show you mine. Show me your soul. Honey, it's way past time. How expensive do I have to be? Need I spell it out before you get it, baby? Show me your soul. And honey, I'll show you.